Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar. My name is Bonda Lanjali, and I'm the VP of Marketing at Elm Street Technology and the Managing Partner of 365. And I'm so excited to be here today with Eric Pointer. Eric Pointer is our VP of Business Growth at Elm Street. He's also the founder and former CEO of AgentJet, which was a very successful lead generation company. And he oversees our elite sales team now inside of the Elm Street family. And on top of it all, he's a 26-year real estate veteran. So you probably never sleep, do you, Eric?
No, not much.
Well, I can't think of a better person to talk with all of our audience today about lead generation. I mean, with you having started AgentJet, focusing on lead gen, I mean, you and your team there really found a way to monetize and drive incredible lead generation. And we're so happy to have that inside of the Elm Street company. So before I let you take it away, though, I'm going to go over a couple of logistics with everybody in the audience. And I have first thing we're going to do is we have a couple of poll questions. So Eric and I wanted to get to know who is in our audience today and get a little bit of an understanding of who of you are actually investing in lead gen or not. So Aaron, if you could go ahead and throw up that first question for us. Are you currently investing in lead generation? Just let us know yes or no there. That would be greatly appreciated. And you should be able to just go ahead and click right on the spot on the poll to answer the question. Aaron, I'm not seeing poll responses popping up. Are they popping up?
Yeah, I see them on my end. Yep.
That's weird. Yeah, I usually see them, everybody. Sorry. And so the next question, after you've selected that one, Aaron's going to put up the next question. If you are investing in lead generation, how do you feel it's going for you? And you've got a handful of selections. You can tell us it's going great, it's okay, it's not so good, or you're unsure. Maybe your lack of the insight into how well it's performing, which is very common. We hear a lot of that. So go ahead and let us know there as well. And once that question is pretty much filled out, Aaron's got one final question for you. And this is for everybody who said that, yes, you are investing in lead generation. We just want to have an idea of what you are spending on average per month. So Aaron, if you could go ahead and pop that question up. Are you spending less than $500, between $500 to $1,000, or more than $1,000 a month? Now we've got a couple more poll questions we're going to ask you guys later in the webinar as well to keep you all engaged, but thank you for all of your feedback right now. I just want you to know this webinar is being recorded, so we will have this available on the backside. So if you have to drop off earlier or you want a repeat performance, we have that available. We'll be sending out an email with an on-demand recording link, as well as some other great information. And then we're going to do some Q&A with Eric on the backside. And knowing Eric, you're going to have a lot of questions you're going to want to hit him with and suck as much information out of his brain as possible. So you can go ahead and you have two different options to connect with us. You have a chat button on your Zoom where you can pop that up and you can actually type a question to the panelists. There's also a Q&A button. You are also welcome to use that as well. So I will actually be monitoring both of these. We have some other people on the back end. So if there is a question, Eric, that I feel like I can interrupt you and interject the question at the time we're discussing it, I'll do so. Otherwise, we will try to answer as many questions on the backside of today's webinar. And I think that's all the logistics. I think I'm done talking. And Eric, it's time for you to take it away and start giving us that knowledge dump.
Well, thank you guys so much for joining me today. Let me do this. Let's see, here we go. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining me today. Again, my name is Eric Pointer. I'm the VP of Growth here at Elevate, and I've been a realtor for 26 years, and what I'm about ready to share with you today comes from both a sort of academic understanding of math and also a practical understanding of doing this stuff in the field. I started a company called AgentJet right at the forefront of the online lead generation science. And it's been just fantastic. For me in my own personal business, I was able to take my business personally, right? Just as an individual, 20, 25 deals, a year, which is real normal, I think, for an above average agent in the country, to nearly 100 deals a year pretty consistently on the back of online lead generation. And so I learned a lot by doing that, and I've been doing it for 14 years. So I would love to share, and I'm going to share with you today, not so much the entirety of the Elevate platform and how it all works and all that stuff. I'd be happy to share that stuff with you after this session, or someone on my team would. But today is going to focus on how to think about online lead generation and why it works for some people and doesn't seem to work for other people. And usually it's a mind shift, and it's a processes, and it's a system sort of thing. So let's jump into it. So when I first became a realtor, I learned real quickly that the money is always in the list. But more important than that, it was that my future was in the list. My kids' college education was in the list. My car, my vacation home, my retirement fund, it was all in the list. And all I had to be able to do is get a list together and be able to manage that list, and then manage my calendar. So those were two things that were really, really important. I learned very early in my real estate career. Now, my guess is if you're like most agents, and the fact that you're here, you're probably not like most agents. You're looking for a way to manage your business and be successful and sort of leverage whatever you're spending now. And but many agents have all kinds of lists. They have stuff in their old Franklin planners. They have stuff on Excel spreadsheets. They have stuff on a variety of different CRMs. And it's kind of spread all over, and it's a little bit of a cluster, and it's really difficult to manage like that. The main thing to focus on is that you have to get your list together. And whether you do it within Elevate, which is of course where I would want you to do it, or you do it someplace else, you need to get your list together. That's number one. And you need to get it together not just to be organized. You need to get it together so that you can work the list in a meaningful and consistent and efficient way. So let me show you what I mean. So here at Elevate, and most of the best companies in the country do this too, we have a process for working leads. And I use this process myself before I joined Elevate, before Elevate acquired my company, right? And the process is essentially a bucket system, and otherwise known as a pipeline. And what I found with agents is they tend not to have this kind of framework in place when they are thinking about what they're going to do with all these various different lists that they have. Now, these can be lists that have been developed through online lead generation, open houses, friends and family, right? All kinds of lists. They're all just part of the broad description of the list. So try not to segment these different things in your mind. They should be put in buckets depending on where they are along the journey. And I'm going to talk a lot about what that looks like today. And feel free to screen shoot the 5 or 6 or 7 slides I'll use for this presentation. I don't have a problem with that at all. All I want is for you to walk away from this session knowing that you now have a way to be successful, a sort of a framework or a directions on how to go forward from here. You know, as an agent, I've been to many webinars in my life, and you know, you get all jacked up at the webinar and stuff, and you say you're going to go out and just make a big change, and like any other habit, it just doesn't happen, right? So it's important that you decide that you're going to put your list together, that you decide what the framework is that you're going to work your list, and that you actually go through the process every day of working your list. So I'm going to give you a really nice, beautiful framework for doing that. Now, obviously, if you don't have systems and processes in place, this can all be done on Excel spreadsheets. Of course, it'll be a little bit more cumbersome, but it can be done. And God knows that we all did business before Excel, right? I remember my old Franklin planner. Yeah, go ahead, Vondelin.
Oh, I was going to say, Eric, you know, it's so funny because it can be so intimidating, right? When you say, okay, we're going to put together these lists, because it's true. Agents have, you've got all your contacts in your phone, and you've
Right,
got, maybe some that are living over here, and people in your email. And,
right.
I just wanted to point out, one of the things that's wonderful over at Elevate is that we actually have some wonderful coaches that can help you sort of, think through where are all these lists and how do we consolidate them into sort of one nice, streamlined, consistent, interface like Elevate, than to start putting them into these buckets. It's not quite as overwhelming as it can feel sometimes.
That's right. One of the beautiful things about having a coach, and I'll tell you what, even as experienced as I am, I have a mentor and a coach as well. And all successful people in business have coaches and people that they look up to, people who have climbed the mountain before they have, and have a few things that can make it a bit easier and give direction. Ultimately, guess what? You have to make the steps, right? You have to make decisions to get organized. And then, but once you've made that decision, there's lots of people who can help you. So let's move on with this. So basically, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different buckets. That's what I like to call these. Now, these are little short buckets, and if I was better at graphics, I probably would actually made them look like buckets. But some people call them statuses, other people call them buckets, some people just call it a pipeline. But these are really, really important, really important. And we're going to talk about each one of these because they go along the buyer and seller continuum. And so let's move on. So the first bucket contains all your leads, like everything that you haven't closed yet, that isn't pending yet, that you're not actively working with, that is, you're out showing them homes and all that. That you may or may not have engaged with yet. It's all these people. And oftentimes it's brand new leads that are coming into the system. They tend to pile up, right? And you don't know what to do. It might be people you met at open houses like I used to do, right? You go do an open house, right? We know that only one person can buy the open house, yet we have 100 people show up. How many of us are really good at following up with the other 99 consistently over time? There's so much money in those 99. In fact, even if you sold the house to the one, there's a lot more money in the 99 than the one. But we as realtors tend to focus on that one, right? We get all hyper-focused on the one. But people who manage their lists well can milk the 99 for years. And it becomes a beautiful thing because it becomes a habit. So new leads, right? New leads are, and there's certain definitions for each one of these stages that a lead goes through, right? So a new lead, these are all at the top of the funnel, in addition to auto texting and automated email and automated newsletters. The thing you should be doing with these people is calling them 3 times a day, morning, noon, and night, right? Trying to connect with them. And the goal is to have a meaningful conversation. I call it a completion. You want to have a completion. And that completion will result in one of 4 things. It will result in a yes, I want to go out and find a home, and I'm ready, willing, and able, right? Or it will result in a yes, but not now. In that case, you just schedule a follow-up, right? It will be yes, but not me. In other words, in my town, I live near the University of Michigan Medical Center in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and this is where I do business. And so oftentimes, parents of residents at the hospital, like new doctors, right? Their parents will call and want to buy a house for their kids here in Ann Arbor. Their kids are full grown. I mean, they're going through the residency at the University of Michigan Hospital. And so I'll call them back. It'll be a lead. I'll call them back. And they'll say, well, it's not really me, my son or my daughter, or my son and daughter, daughter-in-law are looking for a place. And so that's a yes, but not me, right? So then I have to get the contact information of the couple or the person who's looking for a home from the person who's actually on my site, and then follow up with them locally, right? And so that's a yes, but not me. And then there's always a hard no, right? Hard no's are people that, nope, I'm just looking, right? And that's fine, right? They're gonna be, if they signed up on our system, they're still gonna be receiving what we call morning reports, which are like property update emails every day, right? So you don't need to engage with them. Let them engage with the system, and eventually their engagement, the closer they get to a buying decision, their engagement will be self-evident to you if you're on our system. And I'm sure that's true of many systems that are out there. So you got the yes, ready, willing, and able, yes, but not now, schedule them out, not me, hard no, and you got the bogus leads. The bogus leads, you just archive them, get them out of your mind space, right? So you're sifting and sorting through these new leads. And I don't mean just like looking at them, I mean literally calling them until you have a completion. That's really the key. You got to get to completion, otherwise they're on your call for tomorrow. You got to get to completion, otherwise they're on your call for the next day, right? And you're just going to do that. And by the way, most people will pick up, if it's a valid number, within 12 attempts, right? So a single lead, let's say it came in today, you're going to actually talk to those people and get to a completion in 3 or 4 days if you try. Make sense? The challenge with it is that most people don't try because they don't notch out enough time in their day to do that. Okay, make sense? So that's how you work new leads. Now, once you've had a complete conversation, right? You've had a complete conversation and you know something about these people, they're a yes, right? Then you move them over to engaged, right? Engaged are leads, right? That you've had a meaningful conversation with that has resulted in permission to follow up, right? So in addition to the auto text that you should be sending them, if you have a system that does that, maybe you have a CRM or something, ours does that. Or if you have a system that sends out auto emails, maybe that's a CRM as well, ours does that as well. Or if you have a way to send newsletters, either e-newsletters or actual snail mail newsletters, you'll want to do that. But in addition to all of that, you'll want to place the time that you agreed to follow up with in your calendar. So now you want your calendar to drive your activity, okay? So there's 2 things that are really important. The statusing of the leads or contacts, let's call them that, because when I say leads, you're thinking online generated leads. All people that have shown any interest in searching on your site or doing business with you or reaching out to you in any way, shape, or form, whether it was referral from 10 years ago, all those people are leads or contacts. Just think of them that way. They're just all the same. They're in bucket number 1. They're under new until you've had a completed conversation. Once you've had a completed conversation, yes, go for it.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was raising my hand.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're out of my line of sight.
Oh, no problem. We had a great question come in, and I actually responded privately to this person, but I just thought, because you're in this part of the discussion, and I just thought this would be a wonderful opportunity for you to explain the workflows a little bit. So, somebody came in and they asked, well, what happens? I have a lead that came in and I only have an email address on that lead. Like, what am I supposed to do with that lead? And so I'm saying, the fact is, like, having multiple processes in place where if it's an email only lead, then there's going to be a set of automated email touches that go out to try to create connection and conversation. Right. If we only have a telephone number, the same thing. We want to have a system or process in place to do so. And same with addresses. And so maybe you could just speak on that a moment, because I think that's really important, because so many times, right, when you talk about that lead generation mindset, people will think, oh, this lead isn't of value because I don't have a telephone number I can pick up and call right away. But you know what? We have an email on them. We have a mailing address, and there's value to those.
Okay, that's a great question, Bonald. Whoever asked it, thank you for that. Because I get this all the time. If it's not so-called a perfect lead or what we call a full lead, they toss it aside as if it has no meaning. I cannot tell you how many deals I've closed. This is seller leads that were just an address. Think about what, as realtors, what we have access to when we have just an address, right? Think about it, man. We got their tax information. We got it within the multiple listing system. We also got that stuff within Elevate, but we got their tax information. We got their names. We know where they live. They're in our town. We probably drive by their house all the time, right? And so listen, with seller leads, I'm very aggressive about following up with those people in any way, shape, or form I can, because in this day and age, if you can get a sign in a front yard, then you can get all the buyers you want, right? And oftentimes by planting a sign in someone's front yard, that is after you've gotten the listing, you're going to get other listings in the neighborhood, right? And so seller leads are unique in the sense that we can find a lot of information about them. true, we may not have their phone number, but I can tell you 9 out of 10 times if you plug in their, not 9 out of 10, there's a preponderance of time that you can toss their address or their name or their email in Google and find information about them. Now within Elevate, what we do is we append the lead with third-party data to make it easier for you to follow up with leads that don't give you all the information out of the chute. So that's seller leads. That's like address-only leads. And now when a person comes onto websites, almost all of them are email-based. So you're always going to get an email address. And as long as it's a correct email address, all those people are going to be receiving property update emails branded by you. So that's the first sort of touch that they're getting. Whether they gave you their phone number or not, they're getting your stuff, right? And oftentimes what people do is they'll use their name inside their email address sometimes. And when they do that, you can hit them up on Facebook and you can hit them up on LinkedIn and friend them or try to connect with them that way. And that's something that I would encourage you to do anyhow as part of your follow-up. So those are just a couple of ways. And then bogus leads just have a bad phone number and they have emails that don't work. Don't worry about them. You're going to get some of those. But that's the whole point of keeping them in new until that research is done and you have identified, how you're going to connect with those people, right? That's really important. And then following through on that methodology, whatever that might be. All of us as realtors, I want the perfect lead. I want the people to pick up on the first call. I want them to jump in my car. I want them to buy a house with cash. And I want to close next week, right? That's what I want, right? All day long. But that's not reality. And it's not reality in any form of prospecting that you do. Think about open houses for a second, right? We'll do an open house as a realtor. And let's say you have a really good one. You have 100 people show up to your open house. We ask them to register. How many people provide all of the great information that we ask them for when they register, right? The same number that provide you great information with online lead generation. People are people, whether they're registering at your open house or registering online. And usually it's indicative of where they are along the buyer continuum. So they're just starting to think about buying a home, or they're really close to a buying decision. Think about the behaviors that consumers exhibit when they're at an open house, right? Really important. So at an open house, when I'm there, when you're there, you can spot who's going to buy the house by how they're interacting with you, right? There's people that's kind of like a sleuth, man. They come in and look around and sneak out, and they're probably going to go talk to their realtor. You have that type. You have the other ones who are unrepresented or ready to can their own agent, and they just want to work with the listing agent who will walk right up to you and start engaging with you. So they're exhibiting buyer behavior in that type of situation. And our system and other systems like it track buyer behavior similarly online, because consumers also exhibit buyer behavior and seller behavior when they're on a website. And so a lot of these systems, including ours, capture that behavior, and it gives you a sort of a good way to sort of gauge whether or not the people are getting close to a buying decision. Remember, it takes a consumer 2 years to go from the mere thought of buying a home to a closing. So they think first, and then they go to Google and enter their information, and then it becomes a lead in the back of your CRM typically, and then the system automatically starts to follow up, and then there's manual follow-up that you'll want to do with that person as well. So anyhow, make a long story short, those are the ways that you work different leads. Understand that online leads are no different than leads that you would get from an open house, for example, and that the behaviors that consumers exhibit at an open house, they exhibit similar behaviors when they're online looking at homes as well. So think of a website or online lead generation system as a 24/7, 365 open house, right? That's being held. And people are on there looking all the time, and they're exhibiting lots of behaviors. When you're sleeping, they're exhibiting behaviors, and we're capturing their information. So it's kind of cool. Any questions about that? I hope I answered that question properly and probably went over the top on it too.
So Eric, so actually this is wonderful because you were talking about open houses. So I've had a few people message in just wondering, you're talking about the lead pipeline or the bucket list, but, there's also some questions like, how do we start to get leads in, right? And you mentioned top of the funnel, you mentioned, the open house, but maybe you could just take a moment and just talk about all of the different ways that, from our side at Elevate, at least, that we help to generate the leads to start filling in that top of the funnel for them to start working.
Right. There's generally two ways. There's lots of ways that you get leads into a system, into a CRM, right? So you can just manually enter leads that you meet at an open house into any CRM, including ours. You can automatically upload, if you have them on an Excel spreadsheet, into a CRM, including ours, right? In one way, shape, or form, you want to take people that you've sort of physically met face to face, either at an open house or at soirees that you go to, at neighborhood gatherings, at church and stuff like that. You want to get all those people into your system and invite them to begin using your system to search for homes. So that's like your sphere of influence group that you've entered in there. And one thing that's beautiful about Elevate is once they're in there, you can click a single button and invite them. And what's amazing, because it takes people 2 years to go from the mere thought of buying a home to a closing, suddenly those people will come on because you've invited them and start using the system, right? And you're like, whoa, I just saw this guy at the open house. He said he wasn't going to be ready for a while. Well, he's on my site, and now guess what? Every morning at 6:30, they start receiving property update emails branded by you, right? And then what you should do, the very next thing that you do, is you go over to Facebook and you friend them. You go over to LinkedIn and you connect with him and then message them. That's what you do. That's the first thing. Now that's sort of sphere of influence marketing component, right? As far as online lead generation is concerned, what we do at Elevate is we have very sophisticated multiple opt-in process called Smart Lead Capture. And what it does is you decide in your marketplace what area or areas you want to go after in terms of getting leads. You give us a marketing budget. We use that marketing budget on Google mostly, about 99% is on Google right now. And we target people who are currently going to Google, or by the way, there's another type of lead called a diversion lead that are going to Zillow or Trulia, mostly Zillow. And we're diverting those people onto the site that we built for you in your marketplace. So we got people click on the ad, they go to an opt-in form, they put in their search criteria, they go to another opt-in form, they enter their contact information, and voila. In the back of your system, you got the contact and the lead, and that consumer who filled out all those forms is now on your website looking at homes, and this happens in real time. So when you get the lead and you're notified on your phone, that's a beautiful thing about phones. You can simply call them up or email or text them right from there. Now on the Elevate system, we're doing that stuff automatically for you. We're not calling them up on your behalf, but we're texting them and emailing on your behalf. So leads come in through two ways: through search engine marketing organically, and they also come in through paid advertising. Now the truth of the matter is that organic leads are far and few between. They just are. But you'll get some of those on our site, and I'll talk to you a little bit later if we have time about the math that goes that's related to why people do online lead generation in the first place, and how much return on investment you can expect if you do it. So hopefully that answers the question.
I hope you had the chance to show that, because that always blows me away when we run those return on investment calculations with our customers. So
okay, so let's move on. So again, new leads are brand new people, right? You're just doing the research on them. You're trying to get rid of the people who are bogus, and you're trying to get appointments with people or get people to completion. You call them, you're trying to get them to a completion, find out where they're at. They're going to fall into one of four categories: yes, yes, but not now, yes, but not me, and a hard no. They're going to fall in those categories, okay? And then once you've had that completed conversation, you put them in engage, and the next thing you're trying to do is move them from engaged to active. So what is active? Active leads are leads that you are actively, physically showing properties to. Literally, not nowadays, because of COVID, you're not putting them in your car, you're kind of following them there, and all of that, but physically, right? You're not like showing them homes online, right? They're not active if they're actively using your site. That's not an active lead. An active lead in this context is someone that you've engaged with, had a completed conversation, they're ready, willing, and able, and you have them in the car. Or you're sitting in their house doing a listing presentation. One of those two, right? That's who they are. And again, if someone ghosts you, then you move those people back to the engaged status. But if they don't ghost you, let's say you have an appointment, you're really excited, you went ahead and sort of quickly, changed their status to active in the hopes that they would show up, and then they ghosted you. You're like, oh man, that guy ghosted me. I got to change their status. Put them in the engaged bucket again, and then work them until you can meet with them. They're not an active lead until you met with them physically. And that's why this picture shows someone shaking hands, even though we wouldn't be shaking hands right now, right? So again, notice that I haven't focused completely on it, but I'm all about sort of multifaceted connections, right? The lead comes in, all my leads, man, the first thing I do, if they have a name and a name, I check them out on Facebook and try to find them, and on LinkedIn and try to find them. And I get them, and I want to message them right away. I want them to see me. I want to see them. And so, people spend a lot of time on social media. So in any event, once they've moved to active and you're actively engaging with them, you'll get them to a point where you got them under contract, either as a buyer or a seller, right? And there comes a time when you write an offer, a bona fide offer, and it's accepted by both parties on either side of the contract, right? And then it's pending, right? Then it's pending. And once it's pending, you're like home free, right? You're like, oh, that's great. But now you're going through the contractor's inspection and you're doing all this kind of stuff, right? Trying to get it to the closing. Now, what I do is I work my buckets in reverse. So let's say that this was day one of your life and you're starting out here under new. It would be a while before you had people who are in pending. But when you do have someone in pending, in the morning, the first thing you do is you get up and guess what you do? You make sure you keep an eye on that pending bucket. In other words, you work this thing in reverse. So let me show you. So now you've sold, you took them for pending and you've sold them a home, right? So sold are leads that you've closed on and you've earned that front end commission. Now, that's a beautiful thing, front end commission, but it's also the most expensive commission that you earned, right? If you're buying leads, you paid for the lead, you paid for the system, and you got the deal, even though as a relative to the commission you earn relative to the cost of getting that person to a closing is relatively small. Nonetheless, it's called front-end commission, because if you stay in front of that person over the long haul, you're going to get their home when you sell it down the road, and you're going to get repeat referral business from them while they're in the home. But this is where agents most of the time will drop the ball. I can tell you flat out is this is the place in your strategy right now that you need to focus. And that is staying in front of your closed clients and your friends and family, right? On Elevate, what we do is we have this extensive social media and e-newsletter marketing thing that we do, which is amazing. And if you're interested in that, then you should definitely, in chat, let us know you're interested. You want to learn more about that. And my team will reach out to you after the session today. But I can tell you flat out that this part of what we do at Elevate is really, really important. And I can tell you why. As an agent, the worst feeling you have ever is driving by a home with another agent's sign in the front yard, and it was your client, and you didn't stay in front of it. That's a terrible feeling, isn't it? What's worse is if your spouse is with you and points it out. Hey, isn't that John's house? Wasn't John your client? Why is Mary's sign in the front yard? You feel like you failed your family, you failed yourself as a business person, and also you could have provided better service had you stayed connected with that person, right? So that's your easiest business. Stay connected to your sold clients over the long haul. And the only way to do that is to automate it and to put things in your calendar and then do those things. So if there are events Put them in your calendar so you can invite all those people to your events, right? Otherwise, it's social media posts that they're seeing in their Facebook account and LinkedIn account and YouTube account and so on and so forth, or YouTube channel and all that. But in addition to that, you want to have a couple of activities throughout the year that you're inviting all your former clients to. In fact, every time I get a listing, I invite all my former clients to my new listing, especially if they live in the neighborhood. If you have a system like ours, you just select them all and send them all an email that says, hey, I'm doing an open house. I just listed the home at 123 Main Street, and I'd love you to come check it out. Well, former clients come and check out your listing, right? And guess who the biggest advocates are at the open house then? Your former clients. You don't have to talk about how cool you are. Your former clients are going to talk about you, and they're always very animated, and they always talk about the neighborhood, and they always talk about how great you are and all that kind of stuff. So that's something that's really important and gets underutilized in a lot of these types of systems. Pro tip: the back end is where the real money is. So we make chunk change when we make the commission. You know, the 6%, the 3% or the 6% if you double end it, or 4%, or whatever type of commission you might make. The real money is in the back end. It's in the repeat referral business, and that's where we drop the ball as realtors. And at Elevate, that's a strong focus of ours, is to help you not drop that financial ball, right? I cannot tell you how many clients that you may be losing right now because you don't have a strong online presence, right? So by way of example, let's say that Mary, you sold her a home 10 years ago, and now she has a son or a daughter or both who are thinking about buying a home. So they're going to ask Mary for a recommendation. Mary's going to say, hey, use John, he was great, right? And then those kids, being millennials or younger than that, will go online and look you up. And if you're not findable online, active online, they're moving on to their next best friend who happened to just get in real estate 3 weeks ago and they know him from high school or college. So you can avoid that. You can avoid that by having a strong online presence. And with Elevate, once you're with us, man, we hook it all up and make sure that you look like you're the most active person in the marketplace. And we have lots of different methodologies. You can learn more about that after the session if you want to speak to one of our people. But you can do some of that stuff on your own. It's more cumbersome. It's kind of clunky to do it that way. It requires more sweat, equity in the process. So you either spend a little money and have someone else do it for you. You try to do it on your own and you spend the effort, right? So it's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. In my world, I'd rather spend the money and focus on friends and family and former clients, setting up events, meeting people face to face, and doing what I like to do, right? So it's really important to multi-touch those people that are out there, the friends and family and former clients. And so we do that. And whether you come with us and do it, you need to be doing that. I guess that's what my point is. It's important to stay out in front and top of mind with every single one of your clients, not for a little bit of time, but for a long time, because your good business is going to come from these folks. Any other questions?
You've got questions, sir. Of course, you knew you were going to have those.
Go ahead.
So you had actually, a few slides back, you had made mention to the smart lead capture that we do. And so we've had multiple people ask for an expansion on that. And I thought it would be nice if maybe you talk about how we focus on a mix of both interruption-based marketing as well as search, or intention-based marketing. And people are asking for some clarification and understanding of what that means.
Okay, great. I'll do that. So first of all, I got to give you a sort of a, I never know what audience I'm talking to, so I always kind of got to start at the beginning. Basically, there's 3 types of lead sources out there. There's portal leads, which are like Zillow, Trulia, and Realtor.com. Those are called portal leads. And you pay a boatload for those things, don't you, when you buy them? And they're distributed to several people, so they're not exclusive to you. But the good news is that usually when you get that lead, it's because someone requested more information about a home or someone requested a showing. So if you're Johnny on the spot or Mary on the spot, boom, you get that lead and you can close it pretty good. And you think, who cares? I paid a lot for the lead, but I closed them. That's great, right? But we know that 9 out of 10 times or more, you're not going to be Johnny on the spot because you're busy doing something else, because online leads come in 24/7, 365 when you're sleeping, and also. And so it's very common for people to have really good systems in place to get those portal leads, to get to those portal leads faster than you do. And so you're kind of wasting your money if you don't have really good systems and processes and put in place. So those are called portal leads, Zillow, Truly, and Realtor.com. And then you have interruption-based leads. And at the other end of the spectrum, the ones that are furthest from a buying decision are Facebook leads, right? That's called interruption marketing. So people go on Facebook to look at cats and their friends and menus and cool stuff like that. And they see a house and they click on it and they fill out a form. They're no more interested in finding a home with you than the man in the moon for the most part. And so although they're cheap, you have to have a really good process to sort of siphon through all those leads over here in the new column for a long time until you can extract money out of that group, right? And then you have the kinds of leads that we do, which are called PPC leads. And these leads, when someone goes online and thinks to themselves, I want to buy a home in Sarasota, that's the first decision they make. I need to buy a home in Sarasota. So they thought, and then they go to Google and they type in Sarasota homes for sale. And then an ad pops up and they click on that. This is called showing intent. Remember I talked about buyer behavior when we were talking about open houses? They're exhibiting human behavior. And every single human being does the same thing, basically. They think first, except for if they're a teenager. If they're a teenager, they don't think first, right? We all know that. But if they're a full-grown adult and they're looking for a home, they're going to think, I want to move to Sarasota. They go to Google, Sarasota homes for sale. They click on an ad that says exactly that, Sarasota homes for sale, if that's what they typed in. They click on the ad, they land on a landing page that is about Sarasota, and then they put in their search criteria, right? So that's one part. So anyone who will think, click, go to, enter their search criteria is making intentional actions. That's why it's called an intent-based lead. And then they put in their name, email, and phone number, or their email and phone number, or their email, right? Their information. And then voila, you get that as a lead. So that's called multi-part smart path leads. Now, in addition to that, we have a thing called, which is really cool, called diversion leads. So as part of that, we know how to target people who would otherwise be going over to Zillow to search, and they end up going through our funnel instead of Zillow's funnel. So it's a really cool process, and that's what it is in a nutshell. Any other questions about that? How am I doing for time?
You know what, we've got maybe about 15 minutes left. Okay. And I know that we've got a poll question we wanted to ask some people, and then I'd love if you would take us through that ROI calculation. Sure. But Aaron, if you don't mind, go ahead and pop up that one poll question for us in terms of just helping us understand with the audience when you're looking at your real estate technology. For those of you that are using a CRM or have some sorts of systems and processes in place, tell us what is most important to you. And this is a multiple selection, so you can pick more than one. Are you heavily focused on your lead gen? What about your marketing services? How important is that to you? Your social media and email and texting and websites. I know some of you have been chatting with some of you regarding texting, workflows and processes, or consolidation of resources, or are you also, heavily focused on recruiting and retention? So just help us understand a little bit about what you guys are up to and what's important to you. That helps us. And then Eric, we've got time to go through that ROI calculator. And this is what you and your team literally will do when you're working with somebody who wants to come in and invest in lead gen. You guys take them through this calculation process and really help them understand what it's going to take, what they're going to have to invest, what kinds of ROI they're going to see out of it. And so this is wonderful. So please take us through it.
Thank you so much. And I want to go back just a little bit. I know there are people on the call today who know a lot about what I've spoken about so far, and maybe they're just looking for recruiting and retention. Maybe they're looking for a system so that they can recruit other agents to join their team or their organization. We have that. I mean, that is like the creme de la creme thing that we have that is so beautiful. And so if you're a team and you want to grow and you need a way to recruit, we basically have broker metrics built into the system. It's our own version of it, but very similar, right? And then with Bondolin, you can set up these amazing campaigns that allow you to recruit and retain people over the long haul. It's a beautiful part of what we do. So what we do is like end-to-end. It's an end-to-end solution. It's getting more end-to-end as we go, right? As you know, recently we acquired a couple of other companies, and as we acquire companies, we start building that new technology into what we have going on already. And the goal, of course, of Elevate is to make sure that essentially you have one neck to choke with your technology providers, because most agents or brokers or team leaders will have 10 or 12 or more vendors that they're dealing with. And so you can eliminate a lot of those vendors, choose a partner instead, and we'll help you sort of maximize your return on investment instead of being spread all over the place and having a lot of holes in your buckets. So let's move on. Thank you for that. So as I mentioned before, the key is to work the pipeline in reverse, right? So by way of example, your primary job is to retain sold clients over the long haul. So make certain that you show them gratitude and set up long-term follow-up campaigns so that they are following you on. Make sure they're following you on social. Next, focus on pending leads, right? The idea is to keep an eye on these like a hawk and get them to the closing table to collect a commission, right? And so that's really important. And then after you're done working the pending leads for the day, of course, you want to work with the actives. You want to go out and get them under contract in one way, shape, or form. And after you've worked with the active leads, then you go to your engaged leads. These are the people you've spoken to, you got the completion with, and now you're trying to get an appointment with, right? So that's what you do. And then finally, you get your new leads. Now, most agents work this thing in reverse, don't they? They work it in reverse. Everyone's told them, call your new leads, get on your new leads, right? That's important to do that. But generally speaking, you work closest to where the money is. That's what you want to do. So a lead that doesn't know, love, or respect you yet is as far away from the money as you can get. You want to work your day in reverse. It doesn't mean you ignore your new leads, right? You want to work them, but you want to take care of this other stuff first, because this stuff right here is what allows you to invest in getting new leads in the first place. So work your pipeline in reverse. So this is something that my team and I go through when we talk to people who are interested in learning more about Elevate, because we're in the ROI business. That's what we're in. We're interested in getting you to the promised land. And what does that mean? That means to an appointment, to a closing, and to a long-term viable relationship for you. And so how do we do that? Well, we figure out, does it make sense for you financially? Is it a good investment? And we do that by using this calculator. Now, I looked at the poll that you did earlier, and it asked people how much they were spending on online lead generation. There were about 60% of people were spending like under $500 a month, and then the rest were spending over $1,000 a month, right? And so $1,000 or more per month, which is great. So let me tell you what those numbers are. What they look like. So what I like to do is, I'm a numbers guy, and so I reduce everything to math. Let me see if I can make this a little bigger so you guys can see it. Okay, good. There we go. That's better. So let's ask someone, maybe we can ask someone what their average sale price is in their marketplace. That way we can make it real. Let's ask 2 or 3 people to sort of pipe up and give us what their average sale price is in their marketplace. Maybe we can do that.
So if anybody would like to go through this calculator with us, we got Trish here. Okay, so her average sale price is $1 million.
Okay, very good. So we go in here and we go $1 million. That's a lot of zeros, right?
And she's a 5% average commission.
Okay.
Which is split 2 ways.
Okay, so 2.5, right? 2.5. Okay. And then $1 million marketplaces, we found that leads are about $20 a lead, right? That's what we've seen over the years. And what do you think your conversion rate is? If you had 100 leads, how many of them do you think you could get to a closing? 3% is sort of the high average, right? But let's say it's 2.5% for you. Now you may be just a total rock star and be better at that, or maybe you're a team leader and you're handing them down to your agent, they don't work them as efficiently as you do, right?
Yeah, Trish, do you know what? She hasn't given me a conversion ratio,
Right,
so
yeah.
we'll play with 2.5 for her. She
Let's
has
go
no
with two.
idea. She has no idea.
Okay, I'll under promise so that when you do it, you're surprised by the results. Okay, let's say that you decided that you wanted to have a $1,200 a month budget with us, and that you wanted to spend, you know, $750 on our technology. Okay, so that's your thing. And let's say that you didn't get any free leads; those are like organic leads, and that you didn't have a marketing partner, right? So there's no one's covering your costs. You're doing it yourself. You're getting no free leads through organic search. What would your numbers look like? Okay. Well, if you're spending $1,200 on leads, we're going to be able to get you about 60 leads in a marketplace where there's $1 million price point. Okay. With those 60 leads, if you're closing at 2.5%, right, you're going to close 1.5 deals, which in your marketplace would net out about $35,500 after your cost, which is a 17-fold return on investment. And what we found is this is normal. So between 10 and 17-fold on investment is what we see pretty normally without a marketing partner. Like that's without a marketing partner is like a lender or somebody like that, usually a lender, helping you cover your costs. You know, lenders have a tendency to take us out to lunch, right? When we give them a deal. Now, do you know that lenders make oftentimes more than you do on a transaction, right? And so what do we ask of them? A free lunch, right? No, you want to get them involved in your business. And so let's say that they're paying half of your total cost. So it's 1,200 plus 17, what is this? 1,250 probably, right? What is that? $2,000? I think that's what it is. $2,000. Okay, so let's say that they're paying $1,000 of your $2,000. Now look at what your return on investment is, right? Because your total out of pocket is only $1,000. Your marketing partner is covering 1,000 of it. And all of a sudden your return is 38 grand, right? It's beautiful. It's beautiful. It's really, really nice.
Eric, a couple of questions here. So
Yep.
Trish is wondering what the $750 technology and management fee is, and if that's a one-time cost. So if you could clarify that. And then also Jeff is asking when these leads, so under pay-per-click leads, you know, we showing 63 right now.
Yep.
He's asking what is a definition of that lead? So what does that lead kind of look like as it's coming into the system for you?
Okay. First thing is we have systems less expensive than this and more expensive than this. So this is kind of at the upper end. And the 750 covers the technology because we host the technology, we build the technology, we maintain the technology, we train you on the technology, right? And then we manage your ad campaigns, right? So that's what we do. That's what the $750 a month is. The $1,250 a month is what we use for Google, mostly, sometimes being in Yahoo, but mostly Google, right? So $1,200 is basically pass through, goes through our system, goes to those organizations, gets your ad placement. That's what generates your lead. And the 750 is for your technology. And by the way, that includes your system and then 4 other systems for your agents. So it's meant to be a team sort of environment. Now you get those 4 other ones, whether you use them or not, you have them. The goal is that you would recruit people and start leveraging their activities as well. Okay. Hopefully that answers what the technology and management fee is and what the lead budget is. But let's go down, let's do something even crazier. We have systems that are $800 a month. So let's say $400 goes towards the lead budget and $400 on the technology fee. Now this is for an individual user, okay? And see this? Because your cost of leads are so high, you would actually only make $1,200. Oh, hold, we got to take out this one. That's what's going on. There we go. You make 13-fold return on investment. So you spend $800 and you make $11,000. Now, by the way, it's not like you put in $800 this month and $11,000 pops out this month. That just never happens. Any business requires upfront investment to get return on investment, right? So I always tell people, listen, when you do this kind of thing, give yourself a 6-month runway, understand that it takes time to build a pipeline. And from the time you meet someone to get them into a closing might be a month and a half, or 2 months, right? That normally happens. So you got to be able to afford these kinds of things, but the return on investment is really, really amazing. Why do people fail at this kind of thing? They fail because they have a short-term vision, they don't understand the numbers, and they're not willing to follow up and follow through with the leads, right? Those are the primary reasons why. So the people who are successful at doing this kind of thing don't tell you they are, right? So in many marketplaces, all the top agents are doing this, and all the top brokers are doing it too. And if you're not doing it, it's just because you don't understand the numbers yet, or you haven't, decided that you want to sort of go down this road, and you think that you can build a long-term sustainable business on the back of referrals only, which also can be done. It's just a longer route.
Hey, Eric,
Yes.
we've got some questions coming in, and I know we're right near the top of the hour, and they're such good questions. I knew you always have such an engaged audience. I just knew this was going to be great. For a new agent,
yeah,
what would be a recommendation for like a starting monthly budget? Because I've had a few different people, posing that, like, where should they start if they're a new agent, they don't have a big pipeline, and we want to come in and help them? Can you make a recommendation on like a base level that they could come on?
Yeah, here's what I would do. The first and most important thing as a brand new agent is to work your sphere of influence. You got to work your sphere of influence. We have systems that are as inexpensive as a couple $100 a month that are essentially designed to work your sphere of influence, right? And that's a really great little tool. And it's not little, it's actually quite impressive. But the point is that if you have no budget, the first thing you want to do is work your sphere of influence. So let me tell you a quick little story. I was a brand new realtor, new to the area, didn't know a soul. I had just become a Christian, right? And so I started attending this church. And at the same time, I just become a realtor. So what I did is I didn't know that I wasn't supposed to ask people at church for business, but I had the church directory. That was back in the days where the church directories were available. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to let all these people know that I'm now a realtor. So I wrote a little letter and I sent it to every single one of them. And the letter essentially said, I just became a realtor, pray for me, right? And guess what? I got my first deal. And then I had that guy write a letter, right? And I published that letter out to everyone at church. And I sold some more homes. And I had those people write letters, and I published those to the people at church. So what was interesting about all of that, and the thing that I learned was, you want to put yourself in a target-rich environment where you share something in common with the people around you. That's where you start. And then once you kind of got the ball rolling a little bit, right? Then you can start investing in these other sort of expensive technologies, right? And so, but you can start out with Elevated at a couple $100 a month, and then escalate it up as you find success. Now, obviously, you're not going to be, there's no online lead generation in a $200 product, but there are systems in there where you can work your sphere of influence. Okay.
Eric, I love that you actually just referenced direct mail, because somebody actually asked a question about, how do you feel about, incorporating direct mail into your marketing? And I responded back to them privately. But I'm a huge fan of having a comprehensive marketing strategy, right? So touching people occasionally with direct mail, having email, having text.
Yes.
Social, like it really,
Yes.
because our audience lives and engages in so many different ways, and it's
Yeah.
really part of a comprehensive program. So thanks for bringing that up.
Well, thank you. And it is true. And we just bought a company recently that has a printing press, and we're just at the forefront of setting up sort of snail mail marketing technology as well, and Bondland is all over that. So
right. Well, we're automating it. So what's so wonderful is, when that lead comes in, and earlier when we were talking about, sometimes if I only had an address only lead, well, what we can do is, inside of Elevate, that lead will automatically write over to the print shop, send out an introductory postcard on your behalf, where if we have email for them, they go into the email workflow. If we have telephone number, they go into the telephone call. So it's, I just love that we have that ability to divert leads and really, cross qualify them. Eric, we have 1 minute left. I'm going to go ahead and pose. We have one final poll question. And a lot of you are asking questions about the pricing of Elevate and lead gen in your market. And so Aaron, if you can pop up that poll question, please. If you would like to have one of our lead generation success coaches. So Eric's got a whole team of
so Kirsten or Howard or Dominique or one of these people will reach out to you, and they're awesome.
Exactly. So if you want to go ahead, because what they'll do is they will work through this spreadsheet with you. They're going to find out what market are you in, what does your current pipeline look like? They're going to work with you on how much you have to invest and what kinds of ROI that can deliver. So they're going to spend maybe, 10, 15 minutes just one-on-one with you, helping you figure out which is the best entry point for you into Elevate. Right. So if you would like to talk to one of these guys, select yes, let us know. If you're good to go, you feel like you don't need to connect with anybody, you can go ahead and select no, or just not make a selection. But I know there's some of you that are asking things that are, pricing specific to you in your market. And so go ahead and select yes, and we'll have somebody reach out to you. Eric, we have just a moment for a final thought. You've got one moment. One final thought.
Thank you all so much for joining me today. And there's one question I need to deal with because I don't want to dodge it. Someone asked about lead quality, right? And I'm telling you flat out, man, we produce the highest quality leads in the marketplace among all lead gen providers that I know in the vertical, in the real estate vertical. There's a lot of ways we do that. It's a long, extended conversation, but it's a good question. And I would love to chat with any of you about that and show you how we do it and what you can expect. And so, so there's various different types of leads that we produce, seller leads and buyer leads, and they come in different permeations. The vast majority of them are complete leads. That is a name, email, phone number, or a name, email, and an address, okay? So, but there's always the ones that are not like that. So it's still okay because the numbers work regardless of the leads, because we know that if you follow up with them and use the systems that are there, you're going to have success with the system. Just give yourself enough time, be persistent, you're going to be great. So not to dodge that question at all, I wanted to hit it head on. I wanted to thank all of you for joining me today. We will be doing these types of events probably monthly on different topics. Some will appeal to you, and some maybe outside your scope. Like if you're a broker and you're interested in recruiting, my guess is we'll be doing one of those real soon. Or if you're a broker and you're interested in attracting more agents to your organization through providing technology, there's things we can do that. Or maybe it's branding, like you want to build a whole new beautiful brand around your organization. You want this beautiful brand because now you're competing with the big box organizations. We do that as well. So please reach out to us. I'd love to chat with you, chat with my team. I'll always point in the right direction. We'll always do well by you. So thanks for joining me today.
Eric, thank you so much. Thanks, everybody. Watch for an email with an on-demand recording from us on the backside of today. Take care.
Hey guys.